Hi Barbie. Hi Ken.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Barbie.
Hi Barbie. Hi Ken.
Hi Barbie. Hi Ken. I'm Historian Ken. Today I'll be telling you about a philosophical reading by René Descartes. Here's the general overview of our little talk for today. First, we'll be briefly meeting René Descartes. Then, we'll be indulging ourselves into one of his most famous philosophical works, Meditation on First Philosophy. Come on, Barbie. Come on, Ken. Let's go learn. So, René Descartes. He was born on 1596 in France, then died on 1650 in Sweden. He was a prominent French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist, widely regarded as the father of modern philosophy. His work laid the groundwork for the development of rationalism and significantly influenced various fields, including mathematics and science. Descartes is best known for his philosophical treatise, Meditation on First Philosophy, which we will be talking about more later. In addition to this contributions, Descartes made significant advancements in mathematics, particularly in developing analytic geometry, which connects algebra and geometry. His influence extends to modern scientific thought, where he emphasizes on the reason and clear, distinct ideas to continue to resonate. Now, let's talk about the book he wrote, Meditations on First Philosophy. In this book, he explores the fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, and the nature of reality. In the first meditation of Meditations on First Philosophy, René Descartes embarks on a profound philosophical journey aimed at establishing a secure foundation for scientific knowledge. This meditation is primarily concerned with the theme of doubt and the necessity of questioning previously held beliefs. The context and purpose of this meditation is to begin by reflecting on the false beliefs he has accepted throughout his life, recognizing that many of his beliefs are built upon shaky foundations. He feels compelled to undertake a thorough examination of his opinions to rid himself of any uncertainties. His goal to rebuild his knowledge from the ground up is establishing a firm and permanent structure in the sciences. To achieve this, Descartes employs a method of radical doubt, where he resolves to withhold assent from any belief that can be doubted. He argues that since many of his beliefs are derived from sensory experiences which can be deceptive, it is prudent not to trust anything that has previously misled him. This skepticism extends to all forms of knowledge, including those that seem most evident. Descartes then acknowledges that while the senses can provide reliable information about the world, they can also deceive. He cites examples of optical illusions and dreams to illustrate that we perceive might not correspond to reality. For instance, he mentions how he might dream of being in a particular place only to be awakened and realize it was an illusion. This leads him to question the reliability of sensory information entirely. Next, he introduces the dream argument, positing that there are no definitive signs to distinguish waking life from dreams. This argument deepens his skepticism as he contemplates whether he might be dreaming at any given moment. The realization that he could be dreaming leads to him to doubt the existence of his own body and the external world. To further his doubt, Descartes considers the possibility of an evil genius, a powerful and deceitful being that could manipulate his perception and thoughts. This hypothetical scenario serves to amplify his skepticism as he contemplates the extent to which he could be deceived about everything he believes to be true. Ultimately, Descartes concludes that he cannot be certain of anything he has previously accepted as true. He recognizes that all his former beliefs are now subject to doubt. He must carefully refrain from giving credence to any opinion that is not entirely certain and indubitable. He acknowledges that this process of doubt is laborious and that familiar opinions may still linger in his mind, but he resolves to approach knowledge with a clean slate. The first meditation set the stage for Descartes' subsequent explorations of certainty and existence. By establishing doubt as a foundational principle, he prepares to seek out indubitable truths in the following meditations. This radical skepticism is essential for his philosophical method, as this compels him to search for knowledge that can withstand the most rigorous scrutiny. In summary, the first meditation is a critical examination of the nature of belief and knowledge. Throughout the method of radical doubt, Descartes aims to dismantle the foundations of his previous understanding, paving the way for a more secure epistemological framework based on certainty and clear reasoning. Now, in the second meditation of the Meditations on First Philosophy, René Descartes continues his exploration of doubt and certainty, building upon the foundation established in the first meditation. This meditation focuses on the nature of the human mind and the certainty of its existence. Following the radical doubt introduced in the first meditation, Descartes aims to find something that is absolutely certain. He recognizes that the doubts he has raised about the existence in the external world and the reliability of the senses have left him in a state of confusion. To navigate this uncertainty, he resolves to discard everything that can be doubted and seek a single indubitable truth. To achieve this, Descartes begins by contemplating the possibility that all his perceptions and beliefs are false. He considered that he might be dreaming or that an evil genius could be deceiving him about everything he thinks he knows. This leads him to question not only the existence of the physical world, but also the nature of his own existence. As Descartes reflects on his doubts, he arrives at the pivotal realization, even if he is being deceived, the very act of doubting implies that there is a thinker engaged in that doubt. He concludes that the statement "I am, I exist" is necessarily true whenever he thinks. This realization forms the basis of his famous dictum, "Cogito ergo sum." Here are the key points of the cogito. First, the indubitability of self-existence. Descartes asserts that the act of thinking is proof of his existence. Even if all else is uncertain, the existence of the self as a thinking being cannot be doubted. Second, the existence of the mind. He emphasizes that the mind is more easily known than the body. The mind, as a thinking substance, is distinct from the body, which is subject to doubt. Lastly, nature of the thinker. Descartes acknowledges that he must clarify what he means by I. He recognizes that he is not merely a body or set of senses, but a thinking entity capable of doubt, understanding, and reasoning. Next, in this meditation, Descartes establishes a clear distinction between the mind and the body. He argues that the mind is a non-material substance that can exist independently of the physical body. This distinction lays the groundwork for his later discussions on the mind-body dualism. Then, Descartes explores the characteristics of the mind. Nothing that is defined by its ability to think, doubt, understand, and will. He contrasts this with the body, which is characterized by an extension of physical properties. The mind, being a non-extended and immaterial, has a different nature than the body, which is subject to sensory perceptions and the physical laws of nature. While discussing the nature of the mind, Descartes also touches upon the certainty of mathematical truths. He notes that even if he is deceived about the existence of the physical world, mathematical truths remain certain and indubitable. For example, the propositions of 2 plus 3 equals 5 holds true, regardless of whether one is awake or dreaming. Nearing the end of the second meditation, Descartes introduced the wax example, where he asked the reader to consider a piece of wax. When first taken from the honeycomb, the wax has a specific taste, smell, color, and shape. However, if the wax is brought close to a flame, it undergoes significant changes, like it loses its taste and smell, its color changes, its shape is altered, and its size increases. He then discusses the role of the senses. Descartes argues that the senses alone cannot adequately comprehend the nature of the wax. While the senses perceive the wax's initial properties, they are unable to grasp the wax's essence. as these properties can change dramatically. The senses are limited to only perceiving the wax's surface level attributes. To contrast this, he exclaimed about understanding. Descartes asserts that the understanding can perceive the wax's true nature. By mentally considering the wax, the understanding realizes that the wax itself remains the same, despite the changes in its sensory properties. The understanding grasps the wax's underlying substance, which persists through the transformation. Then he thought about imagination, and said that it is unable to fully comprehend the wax. While the imagination can picture the wax in its initial state, it cannot adequately represent the wax's essence, as the imagination is limited to the sensory information provided by the senses. Descartes concludes that the understanding, not the senses or the imagination, is the faculty that truly knows the wax. This example demonstrates that the mind is better known than the body, as the mind can grasp the underlying substance of things while the body is limited to perceiving surface-level attributes. In summary, the wax example illustrates Descartes' distinction between the understanding and the imagination, and his arguments that the mind is more easily known than the body. It serves as a key illustration in his epistemological framework, which emphasizes the role of reason in acquiring knowledge. Moving on, readers tend to realize that the claims René Descartes has made argues against Aristotle's findings, that primarily revolve around his method of radical doubt and his quest for certainty, which led him to challenge many of the philosophical and scientific principles established by Aristotle. First is the method of doubt versus empirical certainty. Descartes employs a method of radical doubt, questioning the reliability of sensory perceptions and the existence of the external world. This contrasts sharply with Aristotle's empirical approach, which relies on observations and sensory experiences as the basis for knowledge. Descartes argues that since the senses can deceive, one must not trust them entirely, thereby undermining Aristotle's foundational reliance on empirical evidence. Next is the nature of knowledge. Descartes posits that knowledge must be based on clear and distinct ideas that are indubitable. In contrast, Aristotle's epistemology is based on the accumulation of experiences and observation. Descartes seeks a more rigorous foundation for knowledge, asserting that certainty can only be achieved through rational thought and introspection, rather than through external observations. Third is mind-body dualism. Descartes introduces the concept of mind-body dualism, arguing that the mind, a non-material substance, is distinct from the body, a material substance. This challenges Aristotle's view of the soul as the form of the body, which implies a more integrated relationship between the two. Descartes' distinction leads to questions about the nature of consciousness and existence that Aristotle's framework does not address. Fourth is the nature of reality. Descartes argues for the existence of God as a provider of truth, asserting that a benevolent God would not deceive us about the existence of the external world. This contrasts with Aristotle's more naturalistic view of the universe, which does not rely on a divine being to validate knowledge. Descartes' approach introduces a theological dimension to the epistemology that Aristotle does not consider. Lastly, Descartes argues about mathematical certainty. Descartes emphasizes that certainty of mathematical truths, claiming that they are indubitable regardless of sensory experience. He argues that while physical sciences may be uncertain due to their reliance on empirical observation, mathematical truths remain constant. This view challenges Aristotle's beliefs in the importance of physics and natural philosophy as a primary means of understanding the world. In summary, Descartes' arguments against Aristotle's findings center on his method of radical doubt, the quest for certainty through clear and distinct ideas, and the introduction of mind-body dualism and the reliance on a benevolent God for truth, and finally, the distinction between the certainty of mathematics and the uncertainties of physical sciences. These challenges mark a significant shift in philosophical thought, laying the groundwork for modern philosophy and science. By the end of the second meditation, Descartes has established a firm foundation for knowledge based on the certainty of the self as a thinking being. He acknowledges that, while he may doubt the existence of the external world and the body, the existence of the mind is undeniable. This realization is crucial for his philosophical project as it provides a starting point for further exploration for knowledge, existence, and the nature of reality. Now would you look at that? Just in time. There's Professor Barbie. Hi Barbie!
Hi, Ken.
Professor Barbie will now be teaching us about the third and fourth meditation of this book. Well, let's move on to her. Bye Barbie! Bye Tan!
Hi, students. Professor Barbie here. And today we are going to discuss about meditation number 3 in René Descartes' book of Meditations and First Philosophy. So this meditation begins when Descartes starts searching for clear and distinct ideas, like the thought processes and mental perceptions. Descartes describes himself as a thing that thinks, which means that he is capable to doubt, to affirm, to deny, to love, and to hate. And in order to try to extend his knowledge further, he looks around carefully to see what else he has to discover in himself and to other things which are not yet perceived up until now. Descartes already admitted that many things are certain or those that are obviously true, but then he recognized those things as dubious. So let's take a look at his example. In arithmetic, we know it is certain in us that 2 and 3 together made 5, right? And because it was presented to his mind so clearly, then what enables him to affirm that they were true? And so, if he judges that such matters could be doubted, there is a possibility of a person's inherent nature to doubt, even in the things that seem to be so clear and so certain because of a God that gave him this nature. And with that, he presented 3 ideas. The first one is innate. Innate are those ideas that are inherent and present to us at birth. They have no external cause and they are not created by your mind. They are there, those ideas are there from the start that you were born, or those that put in our minds from the very beginning of our existence. An example earlier, next ideas is adventitious. Adventitious are those that appear from external cause, something outside the mind, like hearing a noise, feeling of heat, which exists outside of ourselves. Example, whether it isn't or it is your will, you feel the heat. That feeling or the idea of heat is produced in us by something different from us. It is from other external factors. And lastly, fictitious. Those ideas that are formed or invented by oneself. Those that are solely created in the mind. Imaginary ideas that play no part in reality. Some examples according to Descartes are tyrants, hippogriffs, and the likes. Moving on, discussing the principle that the cause of an effect must contain at least as much reality as the effect itself. So this, in simpler terms, this just simply means that the cause must be equal to its effects. So example is the idea of this perfection. So if you have an idea of a perfect being, that the cause of this idea must be capable of representing such perfection. So from this quotation from him, by which I myself and everything else, if anything else does exist, have been created. So Descartes argues that for him to have this idea of God means that that idea must be an innate idea. So going back, the definition of innate idea is something that was presented to us at birth. So innate ideas mean that it would need to have been created by God. And so if God put this idea into the mind of René Descartes, it would mean that God exists. So this leads him to conclude that God must exist because the idea of such being could not have originated from anything less than a real perfect being itself. Now, how did he conclude this? It is because as humans, as finite beings, he will not be able to create an idea of an infinite being. So, he will not be able to create that idea of God himself. So, the fact that Descartes, as a finite being, has the idea of God means that this idea must be innate. It must have been placed into his mind by an infinite, omnipotent being. From whom do I then derive my existence? So with that, he considered three possibilities. So first possibility is he is the creator of himself, the author of his own being. However, René Descartes also rejected this idea because he thought to himself that why would you create yourself with such limitations? Now if we are the author of our own lives, we should doubt nothing. So the second possibility was just existing as he is at present, another source but not a god, which cannot be because there must be at least as much reality in the cause as in the effect, as what we have said earlier. But then, René Descartes also rejected this idea because what will happen is an infinite regress. The questioning would go on forever without a God. So we shall ask again for the same reason whether this second cause exists by itself or through another, until from one step to another, and then we finally arrive at the ultimate cause again, which will be God. So third, the most common idea, I guess, is the parents created him. So they are responsible for our physical creation, but it will still lead to an infinite regress. So though our parents are responsible for our physical existence, they did not sustain our thinking minds. Now, he concludes that there must be an infinite being responsible for creating life because we didn't receive it through our senses. It was never presented to us unexpectedly, nor fiction of the mind, but is innate to Descartes. Moving on to meditation 4 of the true and the false. And now the question is, if our life, our thoughts, our consciousness, and everything in us came from God, then why are we subject to errors? So meditation 4 started with Descartes' statement that our minds are limited, for we are again finite beings. Our minds are not capable of knowing everything with more evidence and certitude. So we therefore know that we exist. We are not nothing because we are a thinking thing, but we are also not perfect. We are also not a complete perfection. So here comes again the discussion that we are limited beings, we are finite beings, and existence comes with limitations. So with this statement of Descartes, we can give one example. So one example is an ecosystem. So if we take a look into an individual or to its component individually, like as plants, as animals, as microorganisms, they are flawed. We can see their imperfections. But on a bigger picture, when we look at them as a whole, as an ecosystem, it will contribute to a well-balanced and harmonious ecosystem. So for the same thing, which might possibly seem very imperfect with the semblance of reason as regarded by itself, is found to be very, very perfect if regarded as part of the whole universe. What causes humans to make errors? So Descartes said that they depend on the combination of two causes. First one, free will. It consists of having the power to do or not to do, to affirm or to deny. And in order for you to do it, understanding must be placed before you. And understanding, meaning with understanding alone, you do not assert or deny anything, but you just comprehend the ideas in which you can form judgments. Understanding is that of our knowledge, what we know about the world, and our capacity to learn. Descartes notices that our understanding is limited. There's no person that knows everything. And while, on the other hand, the free will is our ability to act upon our desires, to affirm, to deny, but our free will is not limited and is infinite. And we may be restricted in our knowledge and understanding, but we can always make our choices. We could always say yes, we could always say no. But then, where did our errors come from? Since the will is much wider in range than the understanding, we extend our will into something that we do not understand. We act upon our limited knowledge, and when we do this, we are prone to committing error. And on the other hand, if you refrain from giving judgment of something unclear and lacks knowledge and distinctness, you act rightly and you are not deceived. The knowledge of the understanding should always precede the determination of the will, meaning before taking an action and decision, one must have a clear understanding of the situation. We must restrain our will from affirming or denying things. If we do not possess sufficient understanding, then our choices are prone to errors. If we do not possess sufficient understanding, our choices are prone to errors. So if our understanding is more limited than our will, then we shouldn't make judgment.
That is it, class. I am now handing you to reporter Barbie.
Hi, I'm journalist Barbie. Today we will cover, discuss, and understand the fifth and sixth meditations of René Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. The fifth meditation is of the essence of material things, and again of God, that He exists. Have you ever wondered what makes a human human? Or what makes a tree a tree? Or what makes a triangle a triangle? Things have traits that they necessarily have to possess in order to be considered the kind of things that they are. These traits are called essence. A little confusing? Let's take a triangle for example. A triangle has 3 sides and 3 angles. If the polygon has more than 3 sides or more than 3 angles, then it is not a triangle. In this situation, the number of sides and angles only being 3 is part of the essence of being a triangle. In the fifth meditation, Descartes states that he can perceive in all objects the properties of extension, shape, size, position, and local motion. Here, he concludes that some abstract geometric objects do not exist in the material world, yet they still have determinate essence. These geometric objects have properties even if they do not exist in the material world. Like a triangle, any kind of triangle's interior angles sum up to 180 degrees. The properties of objects and geometric objects are outside his mind, so even if, let's say, René Descartes did not exist, any kind of triangle's interior angles will still sum up to 180 degrees. He did not learn these from the senses. Triangles, like some other shapes, do not exist in our nature. We do not see them in the real world, but we have a clear and distinct perception of their properties. And because we have a clear and distinct perception of their properties, even though we do not see them in the material world, they still exist. René Descartes used this reasoning to prove God's existence. Because he clearly and distinctly perceives God's properties, one of which is existence, therefore, God exists and is not a deceiver. Let's move on to the sixth meditation, of the existence of material things and of the real distinction between the soul and body of man. This meditation tackles the reality of physical world and the reliability of our senses. Take note, here understanding refers to the mind's ability to grasp concepts and ideas without the use of senses, while imagination refers to the ability to create mental images of an object. The sixth meditation states that the soul and the body are fundamentally different, as the mind is a thinking non-material substance, while the body is a material substance with extensions, which means it takes up space. The mind and the body are intermingled to form one unit. Material objects take up space, and material objects exist. As stated in the fifth meditation, God is not a deceiver, so he will not mislead us. Given this, Descartes says that our clear and distinct perceptions are reliable. With the argument used in Meditation 5, if we have a clear and distinct perception of something, then it must exist, he validates the existence of the external world. Because he also has a clear and distinct perception of the external world, then it must also exist. And that is the end of our discussion on René Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. We hope you learned something today and we'll see you next time. Bye!